I'm Debbie. I'm an orientation leader in RA, and you're watching Titantown Sports.
Welcome into Titantown Studios. We hope you enjoyed your summer. We're back for the first episode of Season 4 of Titantown Sports. I'm Ethan Kurtz, alongside me, Braylon Juzak. Braylon, it's been a long summer. So to reward those loyal fans out there, we've got a jam-packed episode that I'm very excited for.
Yes, sir, we do, Ethan. You know what? I had that itch over summer. Need to get back on the desk. Need to get back on campus here in New Wilmington. So the departure of Scott Benzel to Duke leaves the Westminster football program with a new head coach. You're going to learn a little bit more about him later in the episode. Men's and women's soccer looking to kick off their 2026 campaign, make it a little bit better than their 2025 one. And per usual, Ethan, some high school sports action to go along with it.
The major headlines on campus right now are the announcement of 2 new coaches, beginning with track and field. On Monday, July 27th, Westminster College announced the hiring of Phil Thompson as a new head coach of its cross-country and track and field programs. Thompson joins Westminster after 6 years as Geneva College's director of cross-country and track and field. During his time with the Golden Tornadoes, Thompson led Geneva to 13 President's Athletic Conference championships and was named PAC Coach of the Year 11 times. He also coached 17 NCAA Division III championship qualifiers. Thompson fills the shoes of Tim McNeil, who stepped down after 19 successful seasons leading the Titans.
And another new face we see on campus this fall is a new golf coach, Westminster golf program. This fall, and it's Chris Carfangia. This past Monday, August 24th, the college announced the hiring of Carfangia as its new head men's and women's golf coach. Carfangia brings 35 years of golf instruction and player development experience to New Wilmington, including more than 15,000 individual coaching sessions, a PGA Class A professional, and 24-year PGA member. Carfangia has coached upwards of 50 collegiate golfers from over 34 different colleges and universities, along with 6 Ohio high school state champions. He spent the past 24 years as PGA Director of Golf at Pine Lakes Golf Club in Hubbard, Ohio. He takes over for Matt Torrance, who led the Titans for 13 seasons on the men's side and 8 on the women's side, highlighted by 7 straight PAC championships for the women.
Well, Braylon, we got to learn more about one of these new coaches. Seth Carroll met with Phil Thompson to discuss what they might run into this season.
There's a new face in the head coaching position for the Westminster College cross-country and track and field programs, following the resignation of longtime head coach Tim McNeil after an outstanding 19 years at Westminster. Coach Phil Thompson takes over the program after spending more than a decade as the head coach at Geneva College.
Listen, I think the future is already bright for this group of men and women. The foundation's already there. Our goal this year is just to fine-tune it and put everything together, and our goal is going to be to go in there and win.
Just this past year, Coach Thompson was the head coach at Geneva College, who swept PAC championships in men's and women's cross-country and men's and women's indoor and outdoor track. Thompson has also won 13 PAC championships and 11 PAC Coach of the Year and his 11 times at Geneva.
Coach T had amazing success at his prior school. It was amazing to see his athletes in action at meets. When it was announced that we got a new head coach, I had people from other schools in the PAC texting me like, oh my gosh, you got so-and-so's coach. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to impact our team. And I think that he truly saw something in our team. We have a lot of amazing athletes.
Coach Thompson wants to push his athletes to be the best they can be, helping them develop, improve, and reach their full potential.
What I want to bring is just passion and excitement. I love track and field and cross country. I just, at these meets, I'm going to be yelling, screaming. I just want to bring excitement.
While Coach Thompson has just been with the team for a short amount of time, he already sees the ability the team has and how to push forward.
I talked to him about where I was at with track and cross country, and he really guided me. I have a problem of just staying in my comfort zone, so he kind of respects that, but then encourages athletes to push themselves to get to a higher level. So it's really exciting to see that from a coach.
Even with the new head coach, several athletes' goals remain the same. Senior Dalton Kohler has his eyes set on gold this track season.
With a new head coach, I think my goal, it's staying pretty similar to what it was, going into this past summer before I knew we were getting a new coach. So my goal will be to win the 800 at the PAC championships, indoor and outdoor, and bring those points for our team. I want to score in the 8, I want to score in the DMR, and possibly even the 4x4 and outdoor.
The team doesn't plan on slowing down their momentum. A change at head coach won't hold them back as they continue to compete for gold this season. It seems we have a lot to look forward to during these track seasons. For Titantown Sports, I'm Braylon Juzak, joined with Seth Carroll, and we'll send it back to the desk.
Braylon, that is a track and field program that has a lot of history and has seen a lot of triumphs over the years. 3 members of the Westminster track and field team competed at the NCAA Division III championships in late May. Then sophomore Rylan Dye tied his career best mark in the high jump of 2.06 meters, placing him in 11th and naming him a second-team All-American. Graduate Missy Traharn finished 9th in the pole vault, clearing 3.85 meters, doing enough to also be named a second-team All-American. Then freshman Aubrey Rock finished 19th, clearing 3.60 meters in the pole vault.
Yep, super excited to see what this track season will bring, especially with a new head coach and all that. But speaking of success, the Westminster Titan softball team has officially cemented a dynasty. Westminster captured its 3rd straight PAC championship, taking down Geneva 4-0, completing a dominant three-peat. That puts the program in elite company across Division III. The Titans carried that momentum down south for the NCAA tournament, where in Mississippi, the Titans took down Barry, but later fell to Belhaven University and Emory. Westminster's three-peat is one of the strongest stretches in program history, but they're looking to add one more onto the history and make it 4 straight conference championships in the year 2027, Ethan.
Braylon, a team looking to find similar success as the softball program here in 2026 is the football team. Jacob Rhodes takes us through new head coach E.J. White's journey to Westminster.
For more than a century, football has been a defining part of the Westminster tradition. The Titans began playing football back in 1891 and has since captured 6 national championships. Since 1952, only 8 impressive individuals have been able to call themselves Westminster head football coach, and early last spring, one of them departed.
Coach Scott Benzel, head football coach of Westminster College here, took a job offer at Duke University, a great position. Super excited to see what he has in the future. Ben, do you want to tell us what he had to say about that?
No doubt after 12 seasons at the helm for Westminster, Jordan.
On Tuesday, the Westminster Athletic Department named offensive coordinator E.J. White the interim head coach for the upcoming season. Coach White has been with the Titans for a year and drew up the 5th best red zone offense in Division III with the Titans in 2025.
Replacing the 3rd all-time winningest coach is no easy task. Coach E.J. White had this to say about Coach Benzel at Media Day.
I think when you look at Coach Benzel's history and Westminster's history, his last 11 years, I think he's 85-37. There's not a lot of programs that have that kind of winning history, recent history, and so I don't think this is anything that needs an overhaul.
But before we talk about Westminster, we got to take a trip back to EJ's old stomping grounds, St. Cloud, Florida. Before he was orchestrating your favorite offense, Coach E.J. White was doing it himself on the gridiron, slinging long touchdowns and scampering for huge quarterback runs. But after his time at Osceola, Florida, he had to make a decision on where to go next, and the next stop in his career was probably his most prominent.
I'm E.J. White, quarterback. I'm a senior from St. Cloud, Florida.
It is E.J. White, the old quarterback a couple years ago, record-setting quarterback for the Saints, making his way here on homecoming. White is in trouble, stays on his feet. How did he do that? He's at the 10, he has a chance. He's in, touchdown!
Ending his career 5th all-time in NAIA total offensive yards with nearly 13,000 and every single St. Francis career passing mark, Coach E.J. White had this to say about his time with the Fighting Saints and the teammates that helped him out.
I couldn't have been any more thankful about the receivers I had, the running backs I had, the offensive line I had, the coaches I've had. It's just been, it was the greatest ride I could ever imagine.
Following his collegiate career, White took his talents overseas to Sweden, Germany, and Poland, eventually finding his way in the late 2010s to the Indoor Football League, where he had this to say about the change of pace.
EJ, what are your thoughts on your first season in the IFL?
Oh, it's been different. I've had some great experiences playing football. I was overseas for a summer played football, in college and high school, and so this is something new for me. The game's a lot different than it is the outdoor game, so it's been really cool.
A quarterback who traveled the world chasing the game. A coach who has built offenses across the country, and now the man tasked with leading one of Westminster's most historic sports programs. E.J. White's first season as interim head coach begins September 3rd at Marietta. And for Westminster football, a new chapter is about to begin. For Titantown Sports, I'm Jacob Rhodes.
Back here at the desk inside Titantown Studios, I'm Tom Ruck alongside head football coach E.J. White here for Inside the Huddle. Coach, welcome to Titantown Sports.
Oh, thank you for having me. First time, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Start, Coach, with fall camp, kind of began on August 13th, so you guys have been here for a little while. Just run me through the grind that these players go through on a daily basis, lifts, meals, practice. What does it look like for these guys?
Yeah, I think one of the tough things for these guys is their day is scheduled out from about 8 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. And so everything other than really a 3-hour break, which the NCAA gives them, which is nice for them, they have everything scripted, whether it be meals, like you said, it could be meeting time, it could be practice, walkthroughs. And so for those guys, they're on a strict regimen. We try to get them out as early as possible, but as my guys know in the quarterback room, we were late to bed check a couple times, but as long as we're getting what we need to done and they're getting an adequate amount of sleep, we feel pretty good with that.
So, Coach, first year taking over this team, you lost several coaches this offseason, including former head coach Scott Benzel, multiple others. You brought in a number of new coaches, now 7 former players on the staff. Just how big is that, especially with a younger staff, right? Guys around 30 years old, younger. How big has it been bringing on former players and just new faces overall?
Yeah, I think one of the big things for us has been Coach Benzel is such a staple of this program. Him and Coach Heck really started bringing Westminster back to being kind of a powerhouse and a team that expects to play postseason games. And so losing those guys is difficult. But on the flip side, they built a big coaching tree. And so there's a lot of guys who are younger that have really earned their stripes. And I think it was about time for them to earn, a full-time job or a new job title or whatever it may be. And so we're excited about those guys to have this opportunity. Having the young guys, they get along great, which is awesome. We have a bunch of great human beings, but, we're going to have a couple bumps and bruises early with young coaches, with new titles and learning different things, including myself. But, at the end of the day, with us and our communication level, I think we're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, you've been through fall camps before as an assistant, but this is kind of your first one steering the ship. What's kind of the culture, the team identity you want to set for this group?
Yeah, I think, again, with Ben's and everything he had done leading up to this transition, I don't need to change a ton, and it's not even me as a staff. We don't have to change a ton. We've been very successful. I think one of the big things is holding ourselves accountable. I think the guys have done a pretty good job. We want to be a player-led team. But, when we walk on the field, I think one of the big things for us, and, we just saw with John Carroll is, when you step on the field at Westminster, you're going to face a very tough team. And if you don't bring your A game, you're going to have a long day.
Yeah, you mentioned John Carroll. Scrimmage John Carroll this past Saturday. Last year, John Carroll 12-2 overall, 8-0 in the NCAC. Back-to-back titles in 2 different conferences, right? The NCAC and the OAC. What does competing against a program like that kind of put with the current state of this team, this Titan team?
Yeah, just having a joint practice is huge for us. Having the ability to line up against a different opponent for the first time. We've been hitting ourselves for 12 days up to that point. And so having those guys getting the ability to line up against another opponent. Now, the nice thing is John Carroll, like you said, they were Final Four last year. They're top 10 in the country preseason this year. So, that's a team where you're going to get an identity really quick. Are we prepared? Are we not? Sitting in meetings, our guys may not feel like they're ready to compete. But I think after going through that day, they know that they can compete with anybody.
Yeah, the roster kind of saw some movement, this offseason. Players leaving, arriving, transfer portal, many freshman faces. Can you give us any insight on some new faces that have kind of stood out here in camp?
Yeah, we got a few transfers. I'm trying to think of all of them in my head. Samir Wade, a receiver from Cal U, has been competing for a starting spot. We're really excited about him. LeBron Wilder from Mount Union. Excited to have him. Again, he's competing for a starting spot. Javier White's from Teal. He probably the fastest guy on the team, so it's exciting to have a little speed added. And then even Justin Carey, he was at Lackawanna, played at Aliquippa, so having him kind of join in as well and kind of learn this system. We're excited about those guys. In terms of freshmen, I could name a ton. There's a lot of guys that might get thrown into the fire a little sooner than they should. We have, defensively, you talk about, we got a couple guys from Neshannock, you got Ethan Beeman, you got Ashton Allison, Makari Abernathy out of Tennessee, Isaac Smalls is down from South Carolina. We got a ton of guys. We got a couple guys from Obama, Draquan McLean Street, and Gavin Hazlip. So I could name you 5 more. Offensively, we got a couple guys too. Just throw them out there. Colbin Elliott's a lineman. Again, we had a couple injuries early. We're kind of getting healthy back at that position, but he got thrown into the ones really quickly, probably before he was ready. And Brady Pennister, running back out of Arkansas. So we went over the country to go find some talent, and we're excited about the guys that we got.
Yeah, great to see kind of spread the love all throughout the country. Also a lot of local guys, which is really nice to see. I want to kind of flip to the other side now, talk about the more tenured players. Captains were named this past week. Just how big is it for those guys to kind of set the tone for the culture of this team?
Yeah, I think the nice thing with this is we allowed the players to vote, and they voted for, in my opinion, the correct guys. Guys that we know are going to be there every day, guys that are going to be on time, going to hold each other accountable, be on top of everything that needs to get done. And so they're the coaches on the field, and they're guys that we know that are going to uphold the standard, and they care more about the team than themselves. They want to win championships. And so those 5 guys, we're really excited to have them lead the program.
Now we get to have a little fun, Coach. The final 2 questions here. First, we're going to go a little Coach White beyond the whistle. New coach, we got to get to know you a little bit, right? Saturday night, big, hard-fought win. You're sitting down on the couch. You take a breath. It's over. It's done with. What are we eating? Are we ordering out, cooking? What's the move?
So I guess, for us, the nice thing for me in football season is that's when family visits. Okay. So if family's in town, we're going out to eat. I don't think Jess wants to cook for everybody. But if it's just me and her, we're probably sitting in, being lazy, maybe throwing on some football on Saturday night and just relaxing. But if the family's in town, we're going somewhere.
Nice. And we always finish with 3 keys to victory. Now, this is week 0, a little bit tougher. Don't play Marietta until next week. Now, 3 keys to preparation for Marietta. What are they?
I think one's going to be continuing to work on our tempo. That's been a big thing for us, whether it be offense, defense. We want to make sure that's a big thing. Continuing to understand the importance of ball security on offense and on defense, getting takeaways. And I think the last one's going to be communication. That's always going to be a key for us, whether it be the offensive line to each other, the quarterback to the offensive line, the receivers to each other, whatever it may be. We just got to be able to communicate. So those would be the 3 we're still working heavy on.
Great. Thanks, Coach. That's Coach E.J. White here inside the Huddle on Titantown Sports. Now, earlier this month, we had some correspondence at PAC Football Media Day in Latrobe, PA. Let's kick it to that.
The 2026 PAC Media Day was early in August, starting off with the Hiram Terriers. Coach Xavier Dupree and the Terriers finished 3-7 and 2-6 in conference play. He was asked what their goals are for the upcoming season.
Well, this year the goal is to win more games than we did last year. So.
Case Western Reserve and the Spartans are up next. Longtime head coach Greg Debelak was asked about the 2025 season where the Spartans finished 4-5-1 and 4-4 in conference play. He was asked about the challenges from the prior season.
Yeah, look, we had a first losing season in I think like 12 years, and hey, stuff happens. And there were challenges on the field. There were probably more challenges off the field that I was really proud of the way my team handled them.
Allegheny head coach Braden Lair talked about last year's senior class and how they were able to build upon their success each and every year.
I feel fortunate to be around last year's senior class and to be a part of their journey. They were the first senior class at Allegheny in 8 years that left with more wins than the year before. Allegheny had been on a trend for close to a decade. It takes a lot of blood, sweat, tears, effort to get a program and a ship steered in the right direction. And at least for last year, that senior class was able to do that.
First-year head coach Larry Wilson and the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets are up next. He spoke about his offensive mind and how the Yellow Jackets plan to operate their offense for the upcoming season, keying in on putting the right guys in the right place.
I've been doing this a long time. We're kind of like a West Coast air raid feel of an offense. But what I learned over the years, kind of these guys in the offense, when we get out of camp and see how the season goes, we're going to be about putting kids in the right positions. If we got to get under center, we'll get under center if that gives us our best opportunity.
First-year head coach Tom Contenta of the Geneva Golden Tornadoes spoke about how important it is for his key players to be involved in more things than just football across the campus.
I think one of the things I really want to build is, it's not just the football team. We're Geneva. So we have a model, One Geneva. What we're doing, part of our vision And Caleb, the fact that he's intertwined in everything that Geneva does, I was a lot like that when I was coming through the school. Colton's like that now. And for the young guys to see how important it is to be leaders on campus, it has affected the entire culture of Geneva, not just Geneva football.
The St. Vincent Bearcats, the host of PAC Media Day, up next, and second-year head coach Casey Goff spoke about the Bearcats' prior season, and despite the record not showing so, guaranteeing improvement amongst his squad.
You know, I think last year we knew we were going to have some struggles, so we focused on some things that were more based on culture, based on things we were doing in the classroom, things we were doing outside of the classroom, the way we were operating as a football team. And I know the record doesn't indicate it, but we made a lot of headway.
A 2025 campaign which saw the Bethany Bison finish 1-9. Head coach David Blake in his first year spoke about the benefits and what drew him to West Virginia.
Absolutely. So what drew me to it was deep family ties to the area, but then the challenge of a rebuild. You look at the legacy at Bethany College, and it's not just a program that never won championships. There's a lot of championships won there in the past, and there's quite the legacy. And there's a lot of alumni that want to see success built there again. And so when you compound all those things, and then the beautiful campus in the hills of West Virginia, it was a no-brainer.
Back-to-back PAC champions, the W&J president and longtime head coach Mike Sirianni spoke about how this upcoming season isn't exactly for a three-peat. Rather, he believes his squad can truly compete for a national championship for the first time in a long time.
We just want to win this year's PAC championship and try to make a run. Okay, it's something that our school hasn't done. That realistically, and we realistically for the first time in a while think that's a realistic goal in our program. We feel, okay, that we are in a position to make a run, okay, at a national championship. That being said, we know that that's a long road ahead, and we don't start the season in the playoffs, and the PAC is terrific. There's a ton of great coaches here that I've coached against for a while, but then we added all these great new coaches, okay, so.
The PAC football season opens up Thursday, September 3rd, when Westminster heads to Marietta to face the Pioneers. That's all from PAC Media Day 2026 edition. I'm Jacob Rhodes.
Well, following PAC Media Day, the President's Athletic Conference started the unveiling of preseason polls across different sports. Beginning with football, Westminster was selected to finish in third with 395 points and 3 first-place votes by coaches across the conference. Defending champions Washington and Jefferson were chosen to repeat, and Grove City were selected second. Over to the court, Westminster volleyball was picked to finish 6th in the PAC and received 1 first-place vote. Grove City, the defending champions, were chosen to finish on top, with Hiram elected second. Westminster women's tennis placed at 7th in the preseason poll. Allegheny were chosen to finish in 1st as they looked for their 4th PAC crown in the last 5 years.
As we move on to the pitch, Titans men's soccer was chosen to finish 11th after a 1-win 2025 campaign. Grove City was selected to repeat as champions with 11 first-place votes. Franciscan picked up 2nd spot with 2 first-place votes. And then finally, Westminster women's soccer was elected 7th in the poll. Grove City, who has now won 3 straight PAC titles, was chosen to finish on top once more, garnering 11 first-place votes. Waynesburg received the other 2, but slot in St. Vincent at 3rd. And Ethan and I spoke with members of the men's soccer team and Coach Girish Thakar of the women's program to get an inside look heading into the 2026 season.
2025 was a disappointing year for Titan men's soccer fans. The team finished just 1-13-4 towards the very bottom of the PAC. In 2026, it's a very different look team as Westminster will look to rise from the bottom of the conference back into being a contender for a PAC title. My name is Ethan Kurtz, and I sat down with senior captain Oren Milsick to learn more about the 2026 campaign.
I think it helps a lot having almost an entirely new team. We have, I believe, 25 freshmen or a couple more. So I think having that kind of youthful energy and kind of that new vibe they bring will help us a lot this year to turn things around.
I'm Braylon Juzak. Alongside Ethan, I had the chance to talk to sophomore midfielder Alexi Beneteau about how this year's team plans to reset and reload and gear up for this 2026 campaign.
This season, new players, new goals, new ambitions, like you said, and we're just hungry. We're hungry to win. We're hungry to compete in the PAC, and we have these new goals that we set for ourselves, and we're just hungry to go out and perform and win.
Orrin Millsick been through the highs and the lows of the Westminster men's soccer program and proves himself as a capable leader on and off the pitch. We asked him what exactly that means to him.
Being that kind of link between everybody, both on and off the field, and just trying to do what I can to give everyone a platform to be the best version of themselves.
Beneteau also shared how he looks to improve in 2026 after a freshman campaign battered with injuries.
This year I know what to expect. I worked on the things that I needed to this offseason, and now myself, along with other guys on the team, we know we need to step up, and we know we're going to perform and be there the way the team needs us to be. So not really too worried about that either. We know what we can bring to the table, and we're going to bring it this year. So.
We had the chance to speak with longtime women's head soccer coach Girish Thakar about how this year's team plans to look back for familiar faces, but also plans to turn to some new ones as well.
Well, I think the players returning in Emily Coder, we have a goalkeeper that's been behind our All-American goalie like from last year, Morgan. So she's played well, but she hasn't had a chance to start. So this is her chance to start this year. And then Hayley McQueen, who started last year for us. We moved her around last year because we needed offense, but she's a really good back. So she's going to start for us. Juliana, who also started, she transferred last year for us. She was one of the backs. She's back, and so those two are going to be the two that play center backs probably.
Coach Thakar mentioned that in 2025, Westminster played up to the top teams in the table, but also played down to the ones at the bottom. The team is looking to find consistency for a better 2026.
Last year, for example, we were consistent with the top teams in our conference, meaning we only lost to Grove City 1-0. They were the eventual champions. And then, we tied the team that came second, tied the team that came third, and they were all close games. For us, the problem was against the lower teams, we ended up losing, in most cases, all 1-0 games. So we got to play well against everyone. I think if we play well against everyone, it's going to give us a chance to get ourselves in the playoffs, and then from there, anything can happen.
Both the Westminster men's and women's soccer programs will look to respond from a rare down year in 2025 and kick this season off on a high note. I'm Ethan Kurtz alongside Braylon Juzak for WCN's Titan Town Sports.
We've highlighted a lot of different sports in this first episode of Season 4 here on Titan Town Sports, but now it's time to talk about somebody who's actually been there, done that, and coached and been around a ton of different sports, Ethan.
Yeah, Braylon, our trivia question today revolves around Coach Scott Scooter Renninger. Which sport did Coach Renninger lead to their first ever PAC title and trip to the NCAA tournament in 2012? You've got four options: A, football, B, baseball, C, women's tennis, or D, women's golf.
This one is pretty difficult considering the amount of sports he's been around and coached, but I think I'm going to go with C, women's tennis.
Wow, Braylon with the snipe. I didn't think you had that one in you right there.
Sometimes you got to dig deep in the chamber, but you find it and you come out with the right answer. So that's huge. That's huge for me. 1-0 on the year so far.
There you go. A great start to the year. Coach Renninger did lead Westminster Tennis to back-to-back PAC titles in 2012 and 2013. Also led the first ever women's team to an undefeated season in 2011 when the women's tennis program went 18-0. He coached all the sports on there but women's golf. The fourth sport he coached, men's golf. So a very great legacy from Coach Renninger. RJ Scott has more about his legacy here at Westminster.
Here at Westminster College, there has been an incredible amount of good coaches, great coaches you could even say. Coach Buzz Riddle, Coach Fusco, Coach Berry, I can name many more. But today we're covering Coach Scott Scooter Renninger, a man who also did football, baseball, and tennis. And today on Mural Minute, we're going to hop right into it and tell you everything about him and give him his shine. Scooter spent 36 years at Westminster, making an impact across multiple sports and generation of Titan athletes. He spent 27 years coaching football, including Westminster's back-to-back national championship teams in 1988 and 1989, along with the 1994 championship squad. But his impact didn't stop there. Scooter also coached baseball for 21 seasons, men's and women's tennis, while also leading the women's team to an 18-0 undefeated season in 2011. He was inducted into the Westminster Titans Sports Hall of Fame in 2015, cementing a legacy built on championships, leadership, and countless athletes.
And that was Coach Scott Scooter Renninger, a man of many things and a legend in the Titan community. And right here, as we can see, is one of his accolades with the NAIA National Championship that he got to win with legendary coaches beside him. Thank you so much, and this was Mural Minute. Back to the desk.
Scooter wears a lot of different hats and a lot of different sports, and now it's time to talk about somebody very similar to that, Mark Slazak, been around the high school landscape in the area and obviously Westminster College and the PAC as well, Ethan.
Yeah, Braylon, if you are a fan of high school sports in Western Pennsylvania, you've probably heard the voice of Mark Slazak at some point. A longtime announcer for Sports Radio 96.7, Slazak retired after more than 40 years of broadcasting high school sports across Lawrence and Mercer County. Throughout his career, Slazak called countless games and shared the microphone with his longtime partner, Bob Greenberg. Mark gave a huge thanks to all of the coaches, friends, family, and fans that made his time in high school sports so memorable. You can still catch Mark broadcasting Westminster College football, basketball, and more. From all of us at WCN and Titantown Sports, we congratulate Mark on his retirement from high school sports.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. Just somebody I'm so glad that you could be around, not even as a broadcaster, as a teacher or a mentor, just as a person in general. So I'd like to congratulate Mark Slazak on his retirement from high school football as well. Just an absolute legend around these parts of the state.
Yeah, Braylon, he's done a whole lot for the both of us, everyone here at WCN. Once again, our thanks all go out to Mark Slazak. While we are on the topic of high school sports, Braylon, I went over to Old Main, of course, for my signature View from the Tower, a look into the high school sports landscape. I'm Ethan Kurtz, currently outside of Old Main here on the Westminster College campus, the perfect spot for a view over the high school sports landscape in Lawrence and Mercer counties. It was summer break, so we have a little bit to catch up on. We also have a little high school football to talk about, so let's get right into it. Beginning with a recap of last year's PIAA state championships. In 1A, Union area took down Holy Cross 7-3 to give the Scotties the softball state title. Laurel softball made it all the way to the 2A state title game against Chartiers Houston, a matchup between two District 7 programs that finished 3rd and 4th respectively in the WIPIAL. The Spartans claimed the title and their first ever state championship by a score of 7-1. Sharon fell in the 3A championship despite only being out-hit by 5-4. 4 errors made it tough for the Tigers, who couldn't get past Pine Grove area 7-1. Now heading into the fall, let's talk a little football, and Kennedy Catholic is playing 8-man football in Ohio's Northern 8 Conference. Their season opener was Friday, August 21st, and for the first time since 2011, the Golden Eagles start 1-0, taking down Sebring McKinley High 38-22. Sports Radio Z104 and News Talk 790 WPIC compiled a 2026 preseason football poll for District 10. Last year's 2A state runners-up, Farrell, have been chosen as the favorite in Region 1, receiving all 8 first-place votes. Greenville and Wilmington were tied for second in the poll, with Reynolds and Sharpsville tying for 4th. In Region 4, last year's D10 3A champion Sharon beat out Nemesis Hickory for the top spot in the poll with 5 votes. The Hornets received the remaining 3 first-place votes and slotted in at second. Fort LaBeouf and Grove City are tied for the 3rd spot. Friday, tied second in Region 1, Wilmington face off at Slippery Rock against a Rockets team that sits at 6th in the Region 4 preseason poll. Sports Radio Z104 will carry the contest, and you can also find updates live on the WCN 247X account, as myself and Braylon Juzak will be bringing you coverage live from Slippery Rock. That's all for this week's edition of The View from the Tower. I'm Ethan Kurtz for WCN's Titantown Sports. Well, Braylon, we dipped into the past a little bit to cover the softball state championships. Now, as we look towards football season, I mentioned it, you and I will be there at Slippery Rock on Friday. That game beginning at 7 o'clock, Wilmington and Slippery Rock. A whole lot of excitement there. A couple other games to watch out for. Sharon take on Cathedral Prep. You saw the Tigers were picked first in the preseason poll in their region. You also got Corey playing Grove City. Newcastle back in action this weekend as well.
Yeah, you can feel the excitement over here in Western Pennsylvania, ready for high school football to return, especially District 10, Wilmington. We're excited to make the drive down there to Slippery Rock. But for more high school news, here's Jacob Walzer.
Titantown sports fans, this is Jacob Walzer with a new segment talking about news here locally in District 7 and in District 10. We begin in Lawrence County, where Mohawk Area High School has already adjusted its fall football plans. The Warriors are temporarily relocating practices and early season home games as turf replacement work continues on their home, soon-to-be turf. The district approved a $1.3 million turf project, but construction delays have pushed completion past the start of the season. To ensure player safety, Mohawk has moved activities to alternative facilities until the new turf is fully installed. The district expects the Warriors to return to their home field later on this season. Wilmington football graduated multiple starters and enters the season with one of its youngest rosters in years. The team is relying on several underclassmen to step up into varsity roles, especially on the defensive side of the football. The Greyhounds expect early growing pains, but believe in the younger players will develop and show how they handle adversity as the season progresses. At Neshannock, the softball program coaching search is now underway as one of the most accomplished coaches in Western Pennsylvania, Coach Jackie Lash, has retired. Lash has built a powerhouse program leading the Lancers to multiple WPIAL titles, deep state playoff runs, and attained an astonishing 144-18 record in her career. Her resume includes winning 4 championships in a row, having an unreal 101 record during that run. As the program navigates the recent coaching change, Neshannock is looking to bounce back from last year's state quarterfinal loss against section rival Laurel High School. That's all of your District 7 and District 10 information for this week. We'll continue to follow these stories as fall sports and academic programs get underway across Lawrence and Mercer counties. I am Jacob Walzer from Titantown Sports, sending it back to the desk.
New high school sports seasons, new collegiate sports seasons, and that means a new season of Titantown Sports. And that is about all we got here today, Ethan.
Yeah, Braylon, it was great to be back. We hope you all enjoyed the summer break. Maybe a little upset there's no Titantown Sports going on. So I'm pretty excited to be back. A whole lot of sports that we'll be covering here on Titantown Sports, on WCN, and on Titan Radio, of course, as this fall goes through.
Yeah, you can just feel the excitement in the air. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Couldn't be more excited to be back on campus and back in front of the camera talking to you guys as well.
Absolutely, Braylon. That's all for Season 4, Episode 1. We'll see you guys next week.
I'm Lucas Otis, junior center back for the Westminster men's soccer team. See you next week.